Okay, so let's see here. It is 8:21. Good morning, world. And today is an interesting day. Very interesting, actually. Okay, that shouldn't be there. That was a mistake. You got to be careful to make sure you know which layer you are painting into. But first of all, you might think I'm just trying to be cool, and that's why the sunglasses. Nope, not true. Not true. I am not trying to be cool at all. The reason for the sunglasses is I got hit with a little too much screen time yesterday. And when you're an old coot like me, you after a while your eyes they start to get bloodshot and stuff if you get too much time in front of the screens. Now it is also the allergy levels out there are, I mean, you know, pollen and stuff, the allergens in the air are kind of up. So that combined with an abundance of... Anyway, before I get started here too much, I'm going to jump over, because there's quite a bit interesting going on today, but I'm going to go over here and look at what we have here. JP Animation commented, I think the man who kicked the rock needs to react to the rock hitting the ground. Maybe his eyes should get wider since the girl grimaces, or even twitch his nose when the shot... looks like that got cut off, so I'll go ahead and bounce over to that comment. Yeah, I want to mute that. Okay, so... Yeah. Yeah, the initial reaction was... It was just what I thought was kind of funny about it was just the idea that his eyes look back up and he's sort of waiting to see how his superior is going to respond. However, I do think that this even twitch his nose when the shot comes back. I like that idea. You know, I could see something where he's kind of goes, you know, one of these kind of things where it's like, you know, he's nervous and who knows what's going to happen kind of thing. So I could definitely buy that idea. Now here we've got, this is kind of interesting. Ahmed, I think that was his name. Yeah, Ahmed posted a comment that's a YouTube link. So I have no idea what's going to happen right now. I have no idea what this is. Oh, 2.8 alpha. Okay. All right, guys. I'm going to... I hate to be this guy, but let me tell you something. I downloaded the latest 2.8 alpha yesterday. It took about 14 seconds to completely blow up. So, you know, it's alpha. I get it. It's not even remotely close to ready for prime time. I get it. It's great. It's going to revolutionize the world. Or not. So I'm looking forward to Blender 2.8, but and I want to thank you, Ahmed, for providing the link because I do appreciate that. I did download it. I did check it out. I'm still gonna, you know, and another thing I will say, I probably should take my glasses off so I can be more personable. Another thing I will say is that it is a substantial interface change. It's substantial. So, you know, it's not exactly like using a whole different application, of course, but it's definitely different enough to, you know, it's going to definitely be a learning curve. So, and by the way, this is kind of the problem I've had with so much of this animation software is when you combine a seemingly endless learning curve. But the upshot is that you just want to get your work done, man. You just want to get busy. And there's just so much of it that's a combination of learning the software plus running into all kinds of bugs and problems, and it can be pretty frustrating, and you got to pick the right tool for the job. So now we're in an interesting place this morning, because very interesting place. There's some good things happening, and some changes. So I almost hate to say this, but yesterday Valerie looked at this, and okay, so Valerie's my partner, and this is really her story. Okay, so I'm the animator. When I've made films, it's like I write it, I direct it, I do everything. On this project, I didn't want to do that. On this project, it's her story. She's gonna write it. I'm gonna help her, tune up some of the dialogue, and of course, I have ideas here and there, and things that make a scene more comedic or whatever. But basically, it's her story. So that's, for me, part of the fun of it is we're going to let her tell her story. My job is to make her story happen. And by the way, I see I got 2 people watching. The reason for the glasses, I'm not trying to be cool. I had too much screen time yesterday, and my left eye's getting a little touchy. And that is like, it's kind of like tendonitis. It doesn't just go away. If you're not careful, it can stick around for a while. And these glasses seem to do a really good, they're really polarized or whatever, so that the energy from 1, 2, 3 screens doesn't, affect my eyes as much. So anyway, so my point in telling this about this story is that this is her story. Now, she's sitting here watching this process unfold, where I'm doing the I'm putting together this story. I'm bumping into a lot of issues with OpenToonz as I go along, but it's coming along. There's been really good, interesting discoveries along the way, such as, yesterday when I hit Control R and I realized that this is really an amazing thing to me. And this I will explain in a minute. But look at this. This is I believe this is all 1,000 frames right here that are now cached into memory, and that took seconds. So the thing that's weird with OpenToonz is if you go into preview mode, it's like kind of choppy and slow. And if you go to Control-Shift-R, render, that process seems kind of choppy and slow, and plus you don't see anything that's happening when it renders. But if you hit Control-R and do a render preview, it's really fast, and then you can turn around and click that button right there and save all the images. So it's like this is the way to render in OpenToonz as far as I can tell. So now it's kind of hanging up because it always goes through sort of 2 steps when it's figuring out where you want to save your files. So while it thinks about that, I'm going to talk about this. So my point is that this is Val's anime. She's the writer. It's got to be her thing. Now, while she's watching this process unfold, of me working with the different tools, primarily Blender, OpenToonz, and Krita, she knows that in a sense, although this whole scene is definitely really part of the story, it's also the first real complete scene that I've done, and it's intended, in advance we understand that this is going to be quite a learning process. Okay? So she's sort of not saying too much, right? There's a point to this story, and it's kind of funny. So I'm cranking along, and I'm like, and by the way, see this is actually a shadow if you look at it when it's rendered. So just checking to see if there's any comments. Okay, so I'm getting close to the end of the road here, where it's like, okay, I think this scene is actually getting close to ready. See there again, same thing. If you put it in render mode, you can see that. Actually, a couple things about this shot for those of you, if anybody who's watching has been paying attention for a while. One thing I did was I just went in and I put a pencil type highlight, or not highlight, but outline around that rock, because it just was not showing up, man. It was like, kind of getting lost in the background. So I think that definitely helped. So I'm going along, I'm doing this thing, and I'm like, you know, hey Val, it's like it's getting pretty close here to the end. You know, I think we're approaching the finish. So the thing I did yesterday was, and you have to ignore those shadows, but I turned this shot into a close-up, whereas previously it had cut to a wide shot, and it just, to me, there was no point. Okay, so so I say to her, you know, we're getting close to the end here. I got to add a background to this shot, obviously. Got to kind of fine tune this wide shot here, if I can get to it. I should just get out of preview mode and just use my arrows. So get down here. So this is going to require a couple more keyframes and obviously a background, and then this is the last shot in the scene. So she's like, yeah, it's looking pretty good. The only thing is that doesn't really look like Akari. Excuse me? Now, I'm being facetious. The truth is, I kind of sort of knew this was going to happen. But the problem is this right here is not Akari. That really doesn't actually look like what she had in mind. Okay. So we went back and looked at some references, and I realized, okay, there's not that many shots I'm going to have to change. I mean, if we're going to change the look of one of the characters, this would be the time to do it. That's for sure, before we get too deep into the process. But yeah, that, and I totally can see her point, because she's going after very much of a conventional anime kind of aesthetic, whereas my inclination is to draw more in a sort of I almost feel like I'm claiming too much for myself if I say that I draw in more of a Disney type of style, because obviously that's kind of the quintessential animation aesthetic, and you've got to be a pretty good artist to be able to, you know, come up to that standard. However, when I draw, I tend to lean more towards a Disney style or a comic booky type of style of drawing. Well, that's not really what she had in mind. What she had in mind looked more like this. Okay. So we've got a few shots that we're going to have to go in and completely change, which kind of bummed me out at first, but then I thought, you know, it's like I said, this isn't my project, this is her project. We're doing this, we got to make this look the way she wants it, right? So anyway, so then I'm going through and we've got probably really there's only like 4 shots. Probably the most painful one, I have to say, will be this one, just because getting those angles correct for when she flips around was definitely challenging. But, and of course that pose right there is kind of stupid, but it only goes by in 1 frame, so you don't really notice it. But so anyway, where that leaves us today is the good news is that this whole shot where she's sleeping is actually only one drawing. It's just, that's it, with that one drawing. So once I change the drawing to this and swap it in, the way I did it, all the animation is done with the plastic tool, and because it's in a sub X sheet, I will have to see how this will go, but I think I can swap this image out with the new one, and the plastic tool will just do what it did before, and all will be groovy. So I guess it probably wouldn't be such a stupid idea to find out now if that's gonna work. So let's see here. The first thing I want to check is to make sure that those moonbeams are actually on a different layer. Yeah, they are. Okay, so that means I should theoretically be able to swap this layer out, or at least this picture. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this range like that. Actually, no, let's not do it that way. Let's do it the opposite, because OpenToonz, if you just insert them in there, it moves everything else down, so we might as well just go to the bottom. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this shot that I'm doing in Krita, and I'm just going to, first of all, let's save it. Now I'm going to export this as a PNG, and characters. I want to say right now, don't do what I'm doing, okay? Which is, I'm basically not paying super close attention to the I don't really have a filing system in place, and that's probably a good thing, because the whole approach on this project is probably going to change as of like today, because this is the way I'm thinking of it. First of all, we are not going to try to be really regimented on the timing. In other words, at the storyboard and animatic phase, you might think theoretically we're going to get the timing really pinned down, and once it's carved in stone, man, that's it. We're not going to do it that way. We're going to look at it like a movie. We're going to say each shot is its own thing, just like a clip that came out of your digital camera. Okay, so when it goes into the show, it might be a little longer, might be a little shorter. There's going to be some editing involved. Get over it, okay? So with that in mind, what I actually think I'm going to do is I'm going to literally have every shot of this movie is going to be a folder. And any assets that inform that shot will be in that folder. So like if the background shots, if there's still images that get in, anything for that shot goes in that folder. And then if there's another shot 10 minutes later that can leverage that pose or that drawing, we copy it. So we're not concerned about saving disk space, right? So that every single folder, it's like portable software. It's the idea that you can take the folder, move it from here to here, and it just works. That's what we're going to do. So we're not going to err on the side of conserving disk space. We're going to err on the side of having things self-contained and predictable. Okay? With that in mind, actually we should probably just start this right now, which means we're going to go to anime, and I think that probably, for lack of a better idea, we're going to create a folder. We're going to call this shots. Not scenes, shots. And this is shot 0001. I'm going to use 4 digits, and if we wind up having to insert some in between, you know, no big deal. Actually, you know what? This will inform our process. I'm going to rename this. This is going to be for the shot. Doesn't much matter what I name it, because I can go into that folder and I can see what's there, because any given shot isn't going to have that many assets in it. And frankly, if there's like something complicated like a long image sequence, I'll probably put it in a subfolder anyway. So anyway, that's what I'm thinking for a workflow. So now, with that in mind, I'm going to pull up Explorer, Anime Shots, transitioning over here, and there's the picture. There's the image. By the way, I have thumbnails turned off in Windows. If I want to see, oh, and that shows you the character. I actually don't know what anime that's from, but that girl right there is kind of who we're basing Akari on. She's changed a little bit, but you know, and there's some other designs in here that we've sort of fiddled around with. But anyway, let's go to shots now. Shots, where are you? Ah, we got to hit F5, I bet. Yep, there it is. And there's that. And now we can go back to here and actually go back to OpenToonz. I want to check something here. Looks like we have 2 instances of OpenToonz open. That could be dangerous practice. So, yep, we did. Okay. And in this one, we're going to go like that. And we're going to drag this right in here. And we're just going to load it. Not doing any importing because I want everything to stay in the same original folders, so I'm not really letting OpenToonz manage my files for me. Okay, so with that, let's kind of see what happens. It looks like that's going to have to be scaled, by the way, but okay, so she breathes. And it looks to me like that worked just fine. Yep. Okay, so with that, all I got to do is, man, it's painful to do this. Goodbye, old Akari. Hello, new Akari. You're gone. You just can't take this stuff seriously, man. You know, we're all just having fun here anyway, right? It's all just play. Okay. So now we'll just stretch that down to there. And of course, now I've got two options. Actually, I've got more than two options. But I could scale this with the A key. Probably, I'm thinking, let's go back to Krita. And what is the... I'm going to look at the dimensions of this image. I have a feeling the image is actually too small. So let's scale the image to a new size. Yeah, this is... Let's go to 1920. Why? Yeah, that's locked. 1920. Okay, I guess I need to unhook that by 1080. Boom. Okay, that looks fine. Okay, so actually, now that I'm here, this is actually kind of cool in a way. I can see some other problems that I want to address right now while I have the chance. Now, it's important to note here that this is still Akari sleeping KRA. This is the Krita file. If I save this and update it, it's not going to update in OpenToonz because OpenToonz is referencing the ping file that I exported. So just something to keep in mind so that I'm not annoyed later when I save it and it doesn't seem to have updated properly. Okay, so alright, so let's fix this. Right now I can see that this is going to be a problem. And one good thing about Krita for this kind of stuff is it's fast. Now, how much hassle do I want to give myself here is kind of the question. If I'm gonna maintain some semblance of not, you know, spending 3 hours just to change one little thing, it would make more sense to fix it here than here because I got all this texture. Why am I going to fight with that? It's not like from a gravity standpoint it doesn't make sense for her arm to be out like there. So what I'm saying is, in a perfect world, I would cut the arm off probably there. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it off here and see how that goes. So before I do that, I think I'm going to make a little adjustment on the shadow. And then what I'm going to do is cut it right here. Yeah, I like that better. So let's just zoom in. And so if any of you guys that are watching have been watching for a while, you're probably wondering what the heck I'm doing in Krita. Hey, Oscar, yeah, it is too bright. I spent too much time in front of the screens yesterday, and it makes my this eye, if you can look close, which you can't, but if you could, you'd see it's a little bloodshot. And I've learned, as I mentioned before, it's like tendonitis. Once it doesn't just go away. If you keep aggravating it, it'll stick around for a while. So you want to nip that in the bud. So yeah, that's why I'm wearing the sunglasses. I'm not trying to be Fonzie. Okay, you might not know. Well, Oscar, you would know who Fonzie is, but other people wouldn't. Fonzie was a character on the show Happy Days back in the 1970s. Started in 1975. Fonzie was played by Henry Winkler, and he became literally a worldwide, or certainly American phenomenon. He was known for being very, very cool, and he invented this thing like the thumbs up deal to represent, you know, A-OK. So anyway, that's the story of Fonzie for those of you who didn't know it. Okay, so now I'm going to grab my outline color. So it looks to me like I probably should just go ahead and use the stabilizer. But yeah, man, I mean, for doing art that is going to be just static images, Krita remains a good solution. I think I'm going to make my brush just slightly larger. And then I can bring this image into OpenToonz, and anything that involves deformation, i.e. plastic tool. I mean, gosh, OpenToonz, it's tough to beat. I've been super impressed with the plastic tool, actually, with both its capability and its flexibility. Exactly. Hey, that's right. Oscar knows. That's funny. So yeah, so today, Oscar, I don't know when you tuned in, but as you can see, the design of Akari got changed. So I had a moment of being bummed out about that, and I thought, you know, this is a good discipline. You know, it's good to say, hey, this is not my project. My job is to make Valerie's vision come to life, not mine. And with that in mind, I happily submit myself to her preferences and her aesthetic sensibilities, because I do trust her creatively. She actually helped me. She helped me co-write the script on my most recent movie, which is going to be out in September, called Healed by Grace 2. And she's also done quite a bit of editing for me. She's got a very interesting editing. Whoops, I accidentally just hit the... I got one of these... if you're familiar with these desks, you can't see this, but on they advertise on Facebook quite a bit, but basically it's a rising desk. So it's about $300, and you get this desk that'll go from like 28 inches up to like 40 inches. So I could work standing up if I wanted to. Well, that's what this is. This desk that I'm using is one of those. And it's pretty cool. I have to admit, though, yeah, they love the hair, that's for sure. I have to admit I haven't used the feature as much as I thought I might. So if I had it to do over, I probably wouldn't have bought it, just because, I mean, $300 isn't a lot of money, but for something you're not going to use is kind of stupid, right? So that looks pretty good. Let's see what this is, the actual size. Not too objectionable. Got a little bit here I need to fill in. So I have to say, even though I was a little bit bummed out about the whole change in plans, which again, it wasn't a change in plans. What it was Valerie was watching this whole scene unfold, and was just withholding comment because it was such a, you know, it's a learning process. You're making mistakes and learning the software and this and that along the way. And so at the appropriate time, it's like, okay, now that we know things are working, by the way, Akari's face is all wrong. So I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, she's telling me right now that she mentioned it about a week earlier, actually. But it was kind of like I said, gotta get this. Okay. Can't get my glasses back on. So yeah, it wasn't like it was a big surprise. I kind of knew it was coming. But so, you know, like I said, it's cool. We're just gonna rock and roll and move it forward. So now I'm gonna, I guess I really need this other brush right here. Seems to be the best one for shadows. And I don't know, I think I want that even bigger. Yeah, and then I can just erase back. Cool. Alright, what do you got here? A similar desk, but it's better for presentation in the office. Yeah, and cotton care. Well, exactly. Exactly. Well, again, the good thing with anime is you have a lot of shots that are actually just one drawing. You know, it's not like we're not really talking about losing a lot of time. If you looked at taking any given shot and going in and doing the post-production, like making it perfect, for some of that, you know, time to be spent swapping out a face, who cares? It's just, you know, it's just part of the process. So, no biggie. Wait a second, I'm in eraser mode. But I don't want to be in eraser mode. Let's get that. Probably little something there. I don't even know what that is, but I mean, like I said, as long as we're here and we're gonna tweak it, let's tweak it. Let's make it better, right? That's what I say. The way the characters are in yellow before you started. Yeah, see, what we didn't do is we didn't have a proper character sheets where we have drawings of the characters from all angles so that we sort of know in advance what they're going to look like. But that's because the main focus for the last 2 weeks has actually been saying, let's dive in with Blender and Krita and OpenToonz, and let's just create a scene and make sure that we're not going to get any really rude surprises about the workflow. And so far, you know, I'm at the point now where I've mentioned this in other videos, but it's like, it's not so much about how to do what I want to do, it's just deciding what I want to do. Earlier in the process, every single thing you're going, how do I do this? How do I, you know, like with OpenToonz, if you use the plastic tool, what if you need to go back and change something? You know, how does that inform your workflow? And that's where I figured out you always want to apply the plastic tool actually to a sub X sheet, not a regular level, because that way you can go into the sub X sheet and change things and it'll propagate out and the plastic tool will still do its job. Things like that, and you cannot possibly know those things until you find out. So it could be argued that having the character designs totally nailed down at this stage of the game was really not that important anyway. And I think Valerie kind of knew that, and she was more interested in letting me work out this workflow process. You know, let's get the problems kind of sort of solved before we get too serious about every detail of either how the characters look or, you know, whatever. You know, the backgrounds. You know, I can imagine the backgrounds having to be completely swapped out with different ones, for example. You know, not a big deal. Okay, so Val's saying that no, that's not going to happen. I don't know. I mean, I have some definite misgivings about the monastery. I mean, I think there's a lot more hand painting that's going to have to take place. Because it's... Oh, shoot, I hate that. We got to go View, Canvas, Reset Canvas Rotation. That's been the bane of my life with Krita, is accidentally rotating the canvas. So now I'm just going through and fixing some of these kind of sketchy details that really should have been probably drawn slightly more carefully or whatever. I mean, it's not like we don't want some sketchiness in there. Okay, so Oscar says whatever works. You know, I was saying the same thing to my writer, that the world backgrounds and character design should have been finalized to make it easier to write the story and draw in the comic. Right. Well, it's always painful to have to go back and change something after the fact, but it's not that painful. That's all I'm saying. It's a bit of a it's more that momentary emotional tweak where you realize you're going to have to do some work over again is really the only problem. The actual work that has to be redone, it's not like it's that big of a deal. So then you just sort of dive in and get to it and make it happen, right? Okay, so this is, I feel pretty good about this. Correct. Hey, I got a question for you. Are you liking her eyebrows? Okay. I put them on a different layer just in case. So, okay, cool. I'm going to go ahead and bake this out and put it into OpenToonz and see what happens. So we're going to save this. Oh, I know what's missing. Diggity dog. And let's put this, as long as this is going to be an instructive process, let's put these highlights in the shadow and highlight layer. Okay? Because the reason for that, boy, Oscar, okay, let me catch up here. That's working on Blender during the end of the year, so I can have a 3D version I can use to illustrate further comics. Yeah, if that proves to be a time saver for you, you know, let me know. I've definitely thought about doing that same thing. Because even if you had a really rudimentary 3D model with a good character rig, just so you could, you know, just a generic, you know, shape of a head and the basic correct proportions, so that you can pose it in the 3D view workspace and just save yourself time and knowing, you know, how to draw the character from different angles and that sort of thing would definitely be useful. So, yeah, the thing I forgot here was the reflection on her hair. So, I don't like that. I'm gonna actually hit undo a few times. I feel like I'm kludging here a little bit. And actually, I'm gonna get rid of all that. I just did it again. If you hit shift instead of control, boom. Okay, so what I'm actually trying to do is something like that. Okay. Okay, why am I not quite getting the... I'm not getting the sharpness that I want. Okay, I'm gonna say... Okay, long story short here is I'm not quite sure how we're gonna want to do these highlights, and so I'm gonna defer on that for the moment and always go back in and add them later. For now, I want to see how this is gonna work in OpenToonz. So, and one thing that'll be also interesting to discover here is if OpenToonz will update in real time, and I'll show you what I mean by that in half a second here. Alright, gosh, sort them by name, thank you. Shots, there it is. So now if I update this image, the question is, will the image update in OpenToonz, or do I need to close and reopen OpenToonz? I think it's going to be the latter. I think I need to open and close it. Alright. So just to be fair, I'll jump up out of this shot and then back into it just to see what happens. And it appears to me that we've got to close and reopen in order for OpenToonz to get... Let's try it this way. Let's do a replace. Replace. Okay, that would replace the level. Okay, let's try it this way. What if we go here? Expose in X sheet, no. So I don't really see I don't see an intuitive way to just replace the image. So I'm going to kill OpenToonz and just reopen it. Okay, cool. Akari sleeping. I hate that. OpenToonz always... Okay, that's problematic. Okay, alright. Well, that's what happens, folks. Okay. So, interestingly, it appears that OpenToonz was actually looking for the image to be. I'm just wondering if the original image sequence has to do with the cropping. That's interesting. So let's just see first of all if the animation looks right. And it does. The animation looks really good. Okay. So how do we address this matter? I think what we need to do is, I'm going to try it this way, guys. If you can follow this, this might be instructive. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a dummy level so I can see it here in the X sheet, and then I'm going to scale it up, and then I'm going to use the schematic view to connect both the drawing level and the plastic tool level. I'm going to connect them to I can't do two things at once, as you guys know. Yeah. I'm going to connect them to the dummy level, and that should allow me to scale both of them up. Now the only thing I'm also having a little problem with here is these edges look like we've got maybe some pre-multiplication issues going on, something like that. But of course I could go in here in OpenToonz and touch this up. So not a big deal. So step one is to go Alt-N, and I'm just going to insert a raster level, okay? And this raster level is going to go here, and then I'm going to extend this all the way down. Okay, so now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to the schematic view, and I really, in a way, it's kind of warped, but I like this kind of thing because it's just practical problem solving here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, this is column 2, but I'm going to call it scale, so I can see it in the X sheet. Okay, and then this is Akari. So Akari is here, and Akari is, yes, the plastic tool has a scale on it as well. Okay, that's interesting. So I'm going to go ahead and connect these two. It looks like nothing's changed, which is really good. That means things are behaving as expected. So now I'm going to go back here, and we've hit the A key, and I'm going to scale it up, and we should be able to scale up everything together. And that did work exactly as hoped. Okay, so now if let's look at the preview. Okay, so now this example level of this other character, I'm dispensing with it because I was going to do the fix in OpenToonz, and of course I wound up doing it in Krita. So alright, so now let's go ahead and do a quick preview. Let's see what it looks like. Okay, so now this is another, I can kind of see what's going on here. Not quite sure. There's some weirdness going on with OpenToonz in regard to how it deals with the dimensions of the camera, I think. But I'm not sure about that. But anyway, let's look at this. Okay, as far as I'm concerned, it looks really good. And that's the good news. The gooder news is I should be able to take this same shot and sort of cut and paste the drawing of her head into the wider shot. You know, no problem there. And so the only thing that remains at issue is this. This looks like a classic pre-multiply problem. And there's more than one way we could try to solve that, but I'm thinking the simplest path might be to just do some erasing here in OpenToonz. So I'm going to grab the regular pencil. Is this a raster level? I guess it is. So I should be able to hit the eraser tool, and I have to do it in the drawing, not the not the level, because the level has been influenced by the plastic tool. Once you touch it with the plastic tool, you're not allowed to go in and change it from the X sheet. You can go into the drawing and change it, and it'll propagate out just fine. So that's kind of a strange thing, in my opinion, with OpenToonz, but you know, that's okay. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to paint this out with a fairly soft edge to my eraser, and this will take probably about 1 minute. And like I said, if you were going to deal with this properly, you would address the matter of the pre-multiplying of the image. I don't want to deal with the pre-multiplying of the image because right off the bat I don't actually know how to address that. Do we address it in Krita? We'll amend the art. Ta-da! That worked perfectly. Ah, still got one little area. Okay, wait a second. No, we don't. Well, okay, let me think about this. It's really strange how this... Oh, I see. Okay. Okay. It's because I had the camera crop on. So let's just fix this and then we'll be done with it. That does not look like a pre-multiply issue. That leads me to think... well, I mean, that is definitely what the issue is. It's just... it looks like there were some painting issues there as well. So, anyway, scale out, and here we go. Let's hit the preview. Okay. Wow, that's like really big. So the question, yeah, see, did you notice that? See the white line? Is that a thing? Doesn't look like it is. So what we should be able to do here, I don't know why this is like so square. I'm sure it's my fault though. Okay, so that's 100%. 100% doesn't look too bad. I'm going to go to 50% and just hit the loop key. And, okay. So now the new Akari is in place, and it wasn't too horribly painful. You know, the basic thing there was that she looked a little too old, for one thing. And now what we need to do is go down here and ask ourselves, how do we fix this? Oh boy. Well, that's a good question. How do we fix this? Do we take this image and swap it in and just scale it down? Probably. Okay. So unfortunately, I have to think about this one. Okay, there's the actual drawing. I wish, if anybody out there knows, how do I take this drawing in OpenToonz, and right now, here's what I want to do. I want to say, where is that drawing on the hard drive? Actually, it probably doesn't matter now that I think about it, because that drawing, I think it's a TLV level. Yeah, that would be a Toonz vector level right there, which means I don't know that other applications are going to be able to understand that image. So that could be problematic. The simplest solution I can think of off the bat, let me check this, okay, is going to be to turn this into a sub-X sheet and hope that that works. So let's just check right now and see if the animation still works. If the animation still works, that means we can go into the sub-X sheet and replace her head, and it'll just propagate out. So hit the L key. Let's see, let's do auto markers. I am not seeing, wait, is she moving or not? She's not moving. Okay, so that means that really didn't work. So, tough luck. Let me look at the schematic. Okay, if you look at the file view, you can right click on the file and view in Explorer. Okay, let's give that a crack. So actually, to do that, we would have to go down into here, grab this, and I'm going to assume that maybe for that to be available, you've got to have the Explorer view open, which is the file browser. Or go to the URL path in your settings where the file, save it and copy that path. Yeah, if I look, I mean, I know I can find it if I look for it. I'm just wondering if there's a really quick way to get directly to it on the hard drive. Which it seems like it would, because this was originally a raster level that was spat out of Blender, just the ink lines, and then I converted it to a Toonz raster level. So the drawings, the converted drawings, should actually be in the OpenToonz folders. And let's call it Blender. So I don't really want to spend too much time here, but this is kind of interesting. Aha! There's that drawing. Shoot, the one that I want does not seem to be here, which is a bit of a bummer. Let's look at outputs. Aha! Okay. So L animate Toonz, L animate outputs, Akari sleeping shot 2 ping. There's the image sequence. Okay, so I can find it this way. I'm going to go to my other screen. Since I'm being nice and sharing my experience with the whole wide world, I'm going to go ahead and okay, where was that? That was in Toonz, anime, outputs. Okay, and okay, okay. This is cool. This is cool. This gets me where I want to be. Now, that's the animation of it, but what I really need is just that. Yep, that's what I want. So I'm going to go Control C, and then sticking to the framework that I told you we were going to adhere to, we're going to go 0020. Whoops. And we're going to copy this in here. Hello. Okay. Let's go back. Let's go Control C. Let's go forward. Control V. Okay, cool. That's good, because now that means that we have at least one reliable copy of that particular image that we can, frankly, I think what I'll do is bring it into Krita and do it there, because it's just easier to do so. And if we have to redo the plastic tool on this shot, who cares? Whoop-de-doo. Okay, so I'm going to switch back to this screen, and probably the commonsensical way to do this would be to actually select all, Control C. Okay, now I'm going to drag this in here, and I'm going to open it as a new document. Then I'm going to go Control V. Uh-oh, that didn't work. Let's go back here. Let's try this one more time. Okay, I see what the problem is. Probably need to flatten this for the moment, which is fine. I'm not going to save it. So Control All, Control X, just doing it that way just to make sure that I'm doing what I think I'm doing. Okay, going to grab this layer, and then actually before I do anything else, I'm going to save as, and this is shot 002, and we're going to save this as a Krita document so that it has all of the layers preserved. Okay, so boom, that's fine. And now we can take this and scale it down till it pretty much matches Can you believe that, you guys? Is that just like wicked or what? That's cool. I'm just gonna little fun. Actually, you know what? Strike that. I'm gonna do it from here, and then we'll also erase a little bit out of the other layer in order to make these guys match up. Okay, that looks cool. Down here, we're gonna have to get rid of this. Painful though it may be, I'm gonna have to redraw that. And then up here, I gotta go like this, and in the underneath layer, go like that, and amazingly, we're almost at the point where we have a usable shot, which is kind of crazy. But okay, so definitely a little bit of fine-tuning in here. Let's shrink our brush to a more manageable scale so that we can just color over this, fine-tune it. And so if anybody's tuning in late, the basic issue here is that kind of found out, not altogether unexpected, but kind of found out that the design of Akari wasn't really quite right. She looked a little too old. I'm going to go ahead and fill that way. So I think, whoops, well, okay, that worked. Okay, cool. So we're getting there. This is going to have to go like that, and then we'll have to put in one of those square blocks. But after we do this, we'll bring it back into OpenToonz. Check the plastic tool animation. I'm actually going to see if I can take the previously completed plastic tool animation and map it back onto these drawings. I don't know if that's going to be possible, but I'm going to give it a crack and see. So this doesn't have to be too horribly precise because the actual shot is pretty wide, as you can see. So now, one thing that was actually never done correctly on this shot is this this part. So unfortunately, that's not going to be the best fill job I've ever seen, but that's okay. I was pretty much figuring on having to redo some outlines here anyway, so no big deal. And keep in mind, this shot, in a couple minutes here, I'm going to be adding a whole shadow layer. Now, it's not tinted. In other words, if I go back to OpenToonz and look at the, let's see, got to remember where I'm at here. Okay, yeah. See, so you can see it, she's darkened, and in the final shot, there's if we climb up out of that subact sheet, we see there's also a blue tint. So this is actually what the shot looks like. Okay, and the only real bummer with this whole process is that we kind of lost our plastic tool animation. But as I recall, that took like, if it took 5 minutes, I'd be surprised. It's getting the plastic tool, just getting the bones where you want them is half the battle. Okay, so we gotta make sure we're in the correct layer. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna save the Krita file. Actually, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna be bold and bake it. Bake it meaning flatten it out. Take it down to one layer and say it is what it is. I am committing to these changes that I've made. And this will make a little more sense once there's a shadow layer in there. And I do definitely need to put an an outline in here. So I'm going to actually just steal that. 1, 2, 3, 4. I may have to use my stabilizer, but we'll see. Okay, and I'm actually going to bring the opacity of that down a little bit. That's not what I wanted. I wanted the stabilizer. Nice. Nice, nice, nice. So what about this? That looks nice too. And that looks nice too. It all looks nice. Cool. Alright, good. A little bit of an issue here, without a doubt. That looks pretty stupid. So let's make our brush a little bigger and turn our opacity back up. Now what I've been finding is with the outlines, setting the opacity to 50% has been kind of cool, because like see that? See how dark it is? If I set it to 50%, it's going to pick up a little bit of the color underneath it. So it's going to be, that's going to be subtle, obviously, but it is still a thing. It is still a thing. And okay. So for painting, I pretty much need the. Okay, I don't like that. Probably should recalibrate my my tablet, because whoops, hit the wrong key. I should recalibrate my tablet, because the dot, I really want the dot to be slightly to the left and slightly down, and it's actually right under, which means that if I'm leaned over this way a little bit, I can't see what I'm doing that well. I don't really like to have to flip the canvas again and again. So here we go. Let's save this. Let's add a layer. This is the fun part with Krita, where it sort of kicks the snot out of the other programs that one might use. Let's see. I think I still want that brush, and we want that level to be we want it to absorb alpha, although that probably, yeah, actually that might come in handy. So yeah, right here it's definitely going to come in handy. So by turning, in case you don't know, some people out there might not know, if you turn this off, then you can see the shadow bleeding over. But if I leave that on, this layer is going to have its alpha channel dictated by this layer that's underneath it. Okay, so now I'm just going to very roughly slap in some shadow action. Feels pretty good. I'm not sure I'm buying this transition here so much. So let's just see what happens if we do it this way. Okay, that can't be there. That has to be erased. So that it sort of creates a feeling like there's a... I'm basically using the fact that there's two shadow adjustments here that are theoretically fighting against each other, but actually it puts a nice little edge on the bed. Like, I mean, it looks pretty good actually. So why not use it to our advantage, right? So there's that. Blah 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 blah. I feel like maybe a little bit here would be good. All right, and then erase back out of that. Okay. Cool. I think we're happening. I'll do. All right, so let's save that. And then let's make sure we export it as a ping. What about... See, this again is where using Krita is kind of nice. What if we did this? What if we put another alpha layer? We kind of went like this. What if we went like that? And then what if we said, well, let's add a Gaussian blur to that. Let's preview it. Okay, so that's interesting. Okay, so yeah, we can't have that. We have to turn that off. Okay, stop. Stop. Let's turn that back off. Filter. I think what's got to happen here is you gotta do the Gaussian blur before you need help on the character sheet. Send me an undisclosure agreement to my YouTube email. I can knock them out for you this weekend and share it in our box. Hey, that's really nice of you, Oscar. Yeah, let me get back with you on that. I think that if I think if people out there want to help out, I think it's fantastic. Okay, so I'm going to add that and then just roll this back a little bit and say, do I like it or do I not like it? Not too bad. And it seems to me if we turn the alpha on now, there, that's what we wanted. So the question is now is going into the doc folder, and I'm going to make just a simple text document. Alright, so there you go. Okay, cool. So bear with me for half a second here, people, because I want to do a couple things, because there's kind of a rule, which is do it now. And what I mean by that is that I really want to log into my Google Drive right now and go to my to-do list and make a note to look at getting with you, Oscar, about character sheets. Alright, so email. I don't know how important a non-disclosure is when this whole thing is being done on YouTube for all the world to see, but okay, so we're back to here, and what we want to do is we want to save this as, and we want it to be a ping. Now I'm gonna go ahead and rename this just so we have sort of a quote-unquote paper trail. Wider shot edited in Krita dot ping. And what are our options? What I'm looking for right now is something about pre-multiplying. Yeah, I understand, Oscar. I appreciate that. Interlacing, embed, force convert to blah, 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 store the alpha channel, store the metadata, sign with author data. Okay. So my suspicion is, and by the way, I just noticed something we've got to fix. For the most part, this isn't going to be, you're not going to ever notice this because it's so small, but what the heck, let's, there's that one egregious, goofy looking edge. We might as well clean it up if we can. And here we're going to, whoops, Control Z. We don't want to be in eraser mode here. We just want to, okay. So now we're going to save as. And what I'm going to do is I'm also going to save it as a TIFF, because TIFF is the native image format of OpenToonz, and I'm just wondering if this gives me an option to. I don't want to, well, actually I do want to flatten the image. And what the heck. We'll see if OpenToonz deals with one or the other better. Okay, so now what we've got to do is go into this sub-X sheet, and This, of course, we turned into a sub X sheet because we're going to replace. We're actually going to mute that. I'm going to keep that drawing there, actually. And then I'm going to go to my handy dandy. Okay, this is going to create a loop. Handy dandy image browser. And I'm going to load this. And that's the ping. Is that the ping? Yeah. And I'm going to load this. I'm actually going to load them both because I'm curious if either one looks different from the other. You really can't tell. Well, you would be able to tell here. So if we go to this, I definitely see some pre-multiply weirdness there. Okay, and I also see it there. So that means what's really strange is it's only on the part that I cut and pasted in. So who knows? Let's go back to Krita. I mean, let's just address this now while I'm thinking about it, because we don't want to be bumping into this like over and over again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill this with black so that I can then, and that probably should be okay. So that's interesting. Oh, I see why. Okay, I should probably explain this. I should explain this, and I had forgotten to switch back to this screen. So what I'm seeing here in Krita, sorry guys, is that when I put this black behind it, all of a sudden you notice you can see the glow, even though I told the glow to respect the alpha. Well, the reason is once that black level was, or layer was in there, all of a sudden the alpha channel for the entire image includes all the black area as well. Hence, this no longer is locked to the character. That's okay, because we're going to save this as a Krita file, and then we're going to delete the black. I mean, we're gonna hide the black layer before we export it as a ping. So why are we doing all this? Because I want to look. I want to zoom in here, and there it is. There's the problem. Okay. So let's fix it. We're gonna hit the brush in eraser mode, and we are definitely going to tune this up. Fix that too while I'm here. Okay. And it just seems to be mostly. So what I'm going to do is go like this and then erase back out of it. Sometimes that's the fastest way to crack the nut, is to actually just go over the lines and then erase back out of it. So my sense is that this is not working, and if I really wanted something like that, I might want to wait and put it in directly in OpenToonz. So with that, I'm going to, okay, so now I'm seeing this line here. What is that? Not quite sure what that is, but not a problem. I'm going to hit the eraser. Just make sure that is completely out of my life. Okay, so that's gone. Save that. TIFF options? Sure. Let's save it as a TIFF, and let's save as a ping as well. So I'm just covering my bases here. What I find is that, I mean, frankly, pings are more universally compatible with everybody nowadays, but you know, come on, TIFF is a venerable old format that's been around for a long time too. So anyway, but we definitely want to save the Krita document, which of course is going to allow us to go back in and access all the layers and everything else. So now that we've resaved the images, actually the safest, or not safest, but simplest solution here is just to rerun OpenToonz so that it gathers the images from the hard drive, And by the way, there is a feature I should mention of OpenToonz. Yeah, see, this is screwed up now. This layer, and let's crop that. Yeah, okay. So I'm gonna hit the A key in scale. I'm having to divert here to, yeah, that doesn't do me any good. What if I scale this? Okay, okay, fine. Okay. Apparently that's what OpenToonz wanted me to do. Is that going to foul up the plastic tool? Let's find out. Nope, it looks good. So that's great. That's good news. Okay, so I better save early and save often here. Okay, so that's good. So that means we can jump back up out of there, come down to this shot, go into it, pull out wide, and we see that we have a bit of the same kind of problem. Now, because we're definitely going to be using the plastic tool, I think that I'm perfectly fine to just scale this on frame 1, and now the plastic tool, we're going to have to redo it. And I think that creating the mesh is okay. Creating the mesh appears to be problematic. Why? I know why. I think I know why. I'm pretty sure that if you have translated the layer, the plastic tool doesn't know what to do with the mesh. Let's find out if I'm correct. If I hit create mesh now with that, without that animate tool keyframe in there, that still doesn't want to do it. Okay, so let's go down into here. Could it have something to do? I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to make my life a little easier here if I can. I think what I'm going to do is, let's just see if this works. Okay, that does work. So I'm gonna get rid of the subx sheet. Normally I wouldn't do this, but I just don't feel like fighting with it for the next half an hour. And I think we still have the same problem. Okay, so let me just address this. I don't know what I know what the questions are, but I don't know what the answers are. The questions are, how does OpenToonz deal with, for example, DPI resolution of an image? How does OpenToonz deal with scaling an image, and how does that relate to what the camera sees? The answer is, I'm not sure. It's not clear to me how that all works, but I have noticed the last couple days some scaling issues. So what happens is, you bring an image in, it's not the right scale, and if you scale it up, all of a sudden the camera's cropped in too far. That's what you're seeing here. So let me check one thing before I go too far. Let me see. Okay, we were going to create the mesh here. Okay, first of all, let's go into here, and you can see this is the layer that's active, or the level. So let's stretch this down to here. These other two are, shall we say, muted. This is the old level. Might as well delete it. I know I'm not going to use it. I believe this is the TIFF level. We're not going to use that either. So you can see that the camera is, I mean, you can see here in the preview that the picture is bigger than what we're seeing here. But for some reason the camera wants to be cropped in on it. Why? Why? The only reason I can see that this makes sense is if the camera is set to 1280 by 720, but the image is 1920 by 1080. Let's find out. Let's go into, we're going to have to look at preferences and output settings, both, I think. The fact is, I don't know. Import, export, general. I don't see anything there about that, so I think it would be output settings. Why that would affect your camera settings, I don't know. This doesn't make sense. The output settings are 1920 by 1080. Now the DPI is 120. That might be relevant, I suppose. Doesn't really make sense. Not to me. Okay. So what do? This doesn't seem to make any difference at all, and I would almost swear that this image is 1920 by 1280 or by 1080, and it is. I just looked up here and confirmed that. So this image is the correct size. The camera is the correct size, but the camera wants to be completely cropped in. Now we could move the camera on the Z-axis, admittedly. Of course we could do that. But I'm really trying to figure out what in the heck is going on here. We can see from the plastic tool what should be going on. So what do we do? As far as I can tell, let's kill that. Okay, that's the camera crop. That looks about right, actually. So the only issue, what is this layer? Oh, that's probably the shadow layer I added yesterday, and this is probably the moonbeams. Okay, and the moonbeams appear to be cropped to the camera area. So that would indicate that the only thing that's got a scaling issue is this. So let's turn this back on. Now, my suspicion is if we hit the X key and we hit create mesh, the plastic tool is going to puke. So what I'm going to do, I hate to do this. Actually, let's do it this way. What I don't know is, can we use a skeleton twice between plastic tools? Can we or can't we? I have no idea. So we're going to find out. That seems to be, YouTube seems to be acting stupid. Okay. So I'm going to look at build skeleton, and that's skeleton number 1. There is no skeleton number 2. So if we go here and hit the X key, and we say create mesh, then it works. Okay, that's good. Okay. Then why don't we scale this down appropriately to the camera view, like so. And now, why create the mesh when it's possible that it's already going to work? We just don't know yet. So let's go ahead and see. Let's see if the animation is actually there. It appears, well, nope, the animation is there. Okay, let's do an automatic markers, and let's just see what we have here. Yeah, it's subtle, but it is there. And by the way, it is not influencing this level. So if anybody out there knows, how do you take a plastic tool level and reconnect it to whatever level you might choose to have it connected to? That would be an amazing thing to know how to do. But like so many things in OpenToonz, the capability is probably there. It's probably there. We just don't know how to do it. Okay, so this is column 4, which for some reason OpenToonz has decided needs to be way up here. So this is, we're going way out on a limb here, but what happens if we do that? Okay, that means it got scaled down. What if we do that? Okay, now we're getting somewhere. I think we're getting somewhere. Let's hit the L key and see what happens. Yep, that did it. Okay guys, we figured it out. If you want to take a plastic tool and reinforce its influence on another level, this is how you do it. You go into the schematic and you run that level into the plastic tool. Nice! That's good, right? Okay, it's not completely right. It's got some screwiness there for sure. And by the way, I'm about to sneeze. Excuse me, sorry. That was rude. Okay, so now if I go back to frame 1 and I hit the A key, so that this fits nicely inside of here. This is such a kludge, man. I can see why it happened though. I think it happened because frankly the problem is that her head is bigger. The new Akari has a bigger head. So that means, I think that the solution though might be in the animation of it. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the X key and let's go to animate and let's see what this does. Okay, that's no good. That's no good. So I want to make sure I didn't put any keyframes in there. So I'm probably going to have to rebuild the mesh. And I don't even know if this will work, but I'm going to try it. It did work. It did. I can't believe it did, but it did. That's fantastic. Okay, so we've rebuilt our mesh, and look at what it did. God. Okay. Okay. Okay, that's what you're going to do. Okay. Right on, man. And you can't undo it. Alright. Okay, the only solution I can see is we've got to delete that. Right? And then because this... golly, the thing about this is it does kind of sort of make sense, actually. What's happening is the plastic tool is making its mesh based on the actual size of the image. So we're going to have to, so let me just show you this. This is what's going to have to happen. I'm pretty sure. If I hit the A key now and scale the plastic tool level, see, it's going to take the whole drawing with it, which is what we wanted. Now the question becomes, is it going to scale the bones as well? If it does, our problem is solved. So now let's go back to the plastic tool, and it didn't scale the bones. However, in animate mode, I bet you it still animates. Okay, so now we have to get rid of... Okay, so what's the problem here? The question is, why are there two more keys on the plastic tool? That's kind of weird. I don't know why all those keys are there. I'm sure there's probably a good reason that I'm completely forgetting, but for now I'm going to go with it. So what should happen here, if I'm not wrong, is the animation is still going to be there in the bones. Okay, so let's hit the L key. Turn that on. The animation was so subtle that... Oh, I see what I got it. Okay. Stupid attack. Stupid attack. Okay, you guys, you're just in real time here. You're seeing how we're trying to solve problems to freaking understand what the software is trying to do. But I get it. What I just deleted were the keys for the bones. So now I gotta hit Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. Okay. So the problem is, yep, and the animation is still there. So what that means is, I need to undo the fact that it's growing, but I can't delete the keys over here, because if I delete the keys over here, what it's doing is there's multiple keys. I think what's going on is there's multiple keys on that are being indicated here with, you know, you've got a single little icon that looks like a question mark, or, you know, that says there's a keyframe here, but what is it a keyframe for? Well, guess what? We got to go and look. So we got to go to the function editor. And what we're trying to look at here is on the plastic tool layer. These are the, there's the plastic skeleton. So I'm just trying to figure out what these keyframes are. It looks to me, aha, here we go. Here we go. Plastic, plastic, plastic. Okay. So what I have to do, unfortunately, is scroll over and try to find the scale value. I think that would be it. I think this is what I want to mess with. I'm going to do it. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take this from here to here and I'm going to delete it. Because look, this all says 100. So that means what's going on here is this is me scaling with the animate tool. Everything else is, well, it looks like it's all unchanged. So this appears to not be bone data, but that's okay. The keys don't change, so it doesn't matter. So what should happen now is it'll animate, but the bones are going to be in the wrong place. Okay? So now let's look at what it does. Is it animating? I don't see it. Yeah, actually it is. Look at that. You see her. Okay, so the good news is, and what I'm going to do is, and I may regret this, I think I'm going to save all my work now just in case. But what I want to do is basically put a protector, put protector bones in here. So I'm literally going to just go like this so that there's a bunch of area that cannot move. Okay, so now if I go back into animate mode, the bones that are animating are now effectively, these areas where I put these other bones that aren't animated are effectively protecting that part of the plane, the mesh, I guess you'd call it. So now what should happen is the movement should be relegated to what we want, which is the look of her breathing, which that looks really good actually. So surprisingly, we're in pretty good shape here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and bring this down just a little bit. Go to the next key, and believe it or not, folks, we're almost done. I'm just going to make that a little bit more aggressive because it is a wide shot. And what I want to do here is go Control C, Control V, so I copy the same key. And then down here, to be perfectly accurate, what I really should do is the same thing again. I want to copy from here to here. Okay, so now I can close that off, select this level, and we have the new Akari, and I believe she should be sleeping like a baby. Looks great. So that was painful, but we got it, and that took a couple hours. But so far we've updated now 2 different shots to reflect the new look for the character. which is cool. That looks pretty good. Pretty happy with that. Let's go up out of there. Or actually, I guess I'm in the root level. So I'm going to set from here to here. Actually, to here. Okay, I did not mean to put a. I didn't mean to put a onion skin in there, so I'm gonna hit Control L so I get a preview of everything that has been updated. Okay, so now I'm gonna go back to the first frame. Looks pretty good. You can see it's caching into memory. Again, if you're gonna do a final render, I strongly recommend you do it this way. Hit Control R so that OpenToonz opens up a new window for you, because it renders really fast this way. The standard Control Shift R, offline render if you will, or background render, very, very slow by comparison. Okay, so there's Akari breathing. We like her new look. So now what do we got to do? That's darkened. So I think what's going on here is, if we go down into this level and look at the schematic view, we're going to discover that there is no color correction on that level. So we need to address that, and so I'm going to do that by switching windows here. So many weird little problems. Okay, we need to go to the effects view, and here we go. We want to insert an image adjustment, which I've sort of become enamored of the adjust level plugin, because it seems to just give real predictable results and consistent results. So now I really want to have this turned on so I can see what I'm doing here. Column 4. Oh, this appears to be the wrong column. Where's column 8? How strange. Yeah, this is kind of weird, because down here you can see this is column 5. Oh, I see. Okay, this is something I need to learn. What is the difference here between this name, column 5, versus, which probably, anybody know that? What are these? This is table, but there doesn't seem to be any relationship between this and the name of the image and the name of the level. Weird. Back to here. Okay, so yes, and by the way, the reason the effect didn't seem to be working is because of the buffering issue I've brought up many times. So if I were to change the effects right now, it's not a 100% rule, but probably what would happen is OpenToonz would still show this. It wouldn't, like if I added some color correction to it, I would have to turn this off and on twice, because it keeps it in the buffer, and that's what it shows you until you refresh it. You sort of have to force it to refresh. So I'm going to go back here and look at the adjustment, and I think that probably this one seems to be wanting a slightly more aggressive adjustment than some of the other ones. But what we need to do is jump up out of here and look at, yeah, see, that looks pretty good. That looks good. So yep, I'm going to hit Control R again, use that same preview range, and then I think with that, I've been going for an hour and 44 minutes today, so, but yeah, we're getting it updated and it's looking good. There's Akari sleeping. Yep, the wide shot looks great. She's still, you can see her breathing there, and now we're into this action where the ninjas are climbing the wall. So I'm pretty happy with this. Should we keep going, or should we call it a day? I think I will call it a day. I may do some other work offline, but I think that for now that's pretty good. Thanks for watching. Again, I wasn't trying to be cool. I'm trying to protect my eyes because I've got a lot of time in front of these screens. And I'm sure I will be back on either tonight or tomorrow.